There we go. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the AllDayABA podcast. My name is Kayla, and I'm going to be your host. If this is your first time listening, go ahead and subscribe, like, share, do all the things on whatever platform you are on. And don't forget that you can find the show notes for this episode at alldayaba.org. And today we have a super awesome guest, Ricky Hawks Jr., also known as Ricky the RBT, but that's a little bit of false advertising, and we'll get into that shortly.
Yes, it is.
So thanks for being on, Ricky. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me, Kayla. I'm doing really good today. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. It's early, but that's okay.
Yeah, I know you're an hour behind me, so it's early for me as well. But I like to get up early on Fridays.
Well, and the one day that I have to get up early, of course, my kids are upstairs sleeping in. Yeah. And I was like, how rude. Like, you should sleep in on the days I can sleep in. Yeah. So yeah, you've got a lot of really cool content on Instagram and YouTube. So let's get into, how did you get into ABA?
So how I got into ABA, when I got my bachelor's degree in 2017, I wasn't able to find a job in psychology. And so I started working at a sporting goods store. And while I was there, I spent like 6 months there, and I was just like, this isn't like, I should be doing more. And so got on Indeed, started looking for jobs in the psychology field. And I found a job working in group homes where I was more like support staff, but they use ABA principles in those group homes. And so that's how I was introduced to ABA, and that's how I was introduced to the board certified behavior analyst position.
That's really cool. Because I know in a lot of my like grad school work, we talked a lot about like direct support staff. And it seems like a lot of people don't necessarily start directly in ABA, but they start working, with disabled individuals. So that's super cool that that's how you got started. What has your experience been like transitioning from an RBT to a BCBA?
It's been a transition over the past. So first, I would like to say like the jump from being a RBT to a BCBA is a huge jump, right? There's a large gap in between there. But over the past year, it's been a positive experience. It's been a learning experience, but it's been overall positive.
That's really cool. So did you start your own ABA company now, or do you still work for another company?
I work for another company. So I'm a BCBA and also the assistant clinical director at my current company.
That's super awesome. So you've kind of gotten into like supervising other people, I'm sure, and doing all the behavior plans and all that. What was it like? Because you tested under the 4th edition task list?
Yes. Under the 4th edition.
Yeah. So how was that?
The studying process?
Yeah, and passing the exam and all of that.
I spent a lot of hours studying. So I was studying from sun up to sundown. I got my master's degree at the University of West Florida. And so after I graduated, I graduated a day before my birthday, December 13th. So I spent the rest of December kind of just relaxing, enjoying the holidays. And then I hit the ground running in January. And then when I started studying in January, it was literally like I would wake up, I would try to go to the gym, and I would be listening to a podcast, and then I'll go to work. And then in like downtime when I'm with my client, I'm like on Quizlet, going through flashcards, reading things on Facebook. And then I would go home, and that's when I would actually be like studying, have the books out, have the notepads out, just hard studying for like maybe like 2 hours. Then I would fall asleep, wake up, do it all again the next day. So it was really from sun up to sundown. I was studying a lot. And then I want to say maybe like a month before the actual exam for me, I was just like, I'll just relax. If I don't know it, I'm not going to know it within like this next month or within like these next few weeks before the exam. So I just did like more casual studying. And so I would just kind of just go through flashcards here and there, but I wouldn't really like go at it like very hard. Like I was just kind of just very chill about it, look through a couple flashcards, ask some questions, maybe a big one for me was the ABA Wizard app. And so I would casually kind of just go through a few questions across the different task lists. And yeah, So yeah, that was kind of like the studying process for me.
You're kind of the opposite of me, because anytime I've ever taken a test, it's like laziness. And then all of a sudden, like I'm like cramming. But somehow for me, that ends up working. And I don't know if it's just my ADHD or what, but I've also heard there's, a lot of like evidence for learning it and then kind of like taking a break and chilling. And
Yeah.
Apparently that works for a lot of people. I have not personally tested it
Yeah.
out, but
Yeah.
I probably should someday.
Yeah.
So how did you get into creating reels on Instagram?
So during when I first started creating reels, I want to say we may have still been in the pandemic, and I was just mostly just watching TikToks, and so I was just enjoying it. It was just entertaining for me. I wasn't even looking for like ABA content on TikTok, and so I had started my page. I had seen all the ABA content on Instagram. And so that was kind of like my getaway, because I had already been posting content for ABA on Instagram. And so I was just on TikTok, and that was kind of like my getaway from the ABA focused content. And so my wife actually came to me and was like, "Oh, you should start making reels." And because she enjoyed Instagram reels. And for me, I was just kind of like, Instagram reels are just trying to copy TikTok. Like that's just how I looked at it. And so, but she enjoyed them. And she was like, a lot of people are making them. It's getting a lot of traction, so on. And so she gave me the idea, and I stood in front of the camera. I just started doing them, and they gained a lot of traction. Like we got a lot of engagement from the reel. So yeah, I'll have to thank my wife for telling me to start making reels.
That's super awesome. And did you start your YouTube like before that? I can't remember at what point you started your YouTube.
So I started my YouTube I probably had my YouTube for like 3 months now. But I started after I had wanted to just focus on Instagram, focus on creating content for Instagram, because I was also working. And so with me working at the same time, it was kind of like I didn't want to overexert myself. And so I just focused a lot of my attention on Instagram. And then, about 3 months ago, I started making content for YouTube as well.
And what do you like most about YouTube? And then what do you like least about YouTube?
What I like the most about YouTube, it would be just reaching a larger audience, reaching people who would just kind of just be looking up just things related to ABA, and they're not looking for it on Instagram or Twitter or something like that. They, Google, I want to say it's like the second largest search engine. And so when people are looking up ABA on YouTube, my videos may pop up. And so that's the one thing that I do like about it. I get to reach a larger audience, and the videos are easily shareable, easy to access, so on. What I dislike doesn't really have to do with YouTube, honestly. It's just more like the technical issues that come with posting content. As you know, like Wi-Fi, when you're editing videos, like things just go wrong, and it's like you just kind of just have to accept it. Like, okay, well, I have to wait an extra few days to post this. So there's nothing specific to YouTube. It's just more like being at the mercy of technology, honestly.
Yeah. I feel like I like podcasting because there's so much less editing involved. And so that's why I like having the podcast on YouTube, is because I'm still putting out YouTube content, but I'm not sitting there working for like an hour or two on like a, 4-minute video. It's longer form content, which seems to get a lot more engagement and seems to be more helpful, honestly, to other people. I know when I watch YouTube, I'm looking for videos that are anywhere from like 10 minutes to like an hour. And especially for a lot of people that have commutes, they want to like have something to fill that time, which is really useful. And that's probably a study tip for a lot of people. If you have a commute, you can listen to podcasts and you can listen to YouTube videos on your commute. And that's a really valid way of studying. And I think a lot of people believe that studying has to be sitting down with your textbook or with flashcards, and it doesn't have to be. I know. I'm like huge into, audio format learning. That's, one way.
So I know, like right now when you're doing like the podcast, you're able to hit like 2 different streaming platforms where you can have like the visual content for YouTube, but then you can also have the audio based content for just like Apple Podcasts or Spotify or something like that. So that's like that's like super great for you, just being able to produce content for just different platforms. But then also, like you mentioned, it's really good as like a study option. You're on your commute, you can just pull up things on YouTube, just listen to it as you go. That was one thing that I did when I would go to the gym. I would just be listening to ABA focused podcasts or videos. And actually some of your videos were I would create playlists. I had videos just kind of just on a loop, and yeah, your videos were in there as well. So yeah, it's definitely useful to be able to access those things on YouTube and access the podcast.
My apologies to everybody who has used my videos and was hoping for more. My goal actually now is to make a task list podcast a little separate from this one.
Cool. Yeah.
And I want to go through each section of the task list because again, like just sitting there and doing the videos for like YouTube specifically was really hard. Like, and I don't know why, because this is it's a very similar format, but it's also not. So my goal now is to go back and go through the task list and make like, I think I'm going to call it the Task List Takeaways podcast, and do
cool.
Each section of the task list just kind of as a podcast and doing that format. And so, yeah, be on the lookout for that eventually. Now that I've put it out there, now I have to do it.
A nice little nugget into this particular episode. So yeah, definitely be on the lookout for that. I'll be on the lookout for it as well. So yeah, I'm really excited about that.
And thank you for using my videos. That's so nice. I'm always surprised when people are like, "Oh, I found your stuff." I'm like, "Did you really?" Like,
I know I put me both.
I know I put things out, but like I never expect them to actually get used or found or anything. So yeah.
So funny story, at work right now, I'm kind of flying up under the radar as a content creator on Instagram and on YouTube. And we had a new behavior analyst come in, and they searched my name, just kind of just seeing who their teammates are. And so she searched my name, and she was already following me on Instagram. And so when she see me, she was like, "Oh, you're Ricky the RBT." And I'm just like, yes, I am. How are you? Right. Yeah.
I don't think it's hard. Like I've heard about the term micro famous, and I don't think it's particularly hard to get micro famous in the ABA space because it's a growing field. And so there's not a lot of us like content creators yet. There are quite a few, but especially for like podcasts and YouTube, it's still like really in the baby stages.
Yeah, it is.
So I guess the good thing and the bad thing is that if you put out long form content, you're probably going to get found by a whole lot of people in the ABA space.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that. So
do you have any content creation tips for those who are looking to do what you do on YouTube or Instagram or just any sort of content?
I would say my tips would be kind of like just like the three that I kind of remind myself of is to just be relatable, be consistent, and just promote your content. And so like even when I say like promote your content, it's like you don't want to like be overbearing where like you're always promoting your content on every social media platform, but just promoting it, kind of letting people know like, hey, posted this video, what do you think? Kind of getting feedback from different people to kind of see if it's relatable. And if you're kind of like being consistent, like if you're posting videos every week and like they're looking out for these things, or they notice like you posted another video last week, like just hearing those things is like really good because now you're at least popping up on someone's timeline on a weekly basis. And even if like your content isn't quote unquote good at first, you're at least being seen. So I feel like that's the most important thing, like being able to post that content, being consistent about it. And then also being relatable.
Yeah, I think those are really, really good tips. I know, like, I think everybody, you just have to suck at first with whatever you're doing. Like, I know when I was first making products, I used Microsoft Word and they just looked so bad. Yeah. And then, now I could make like a worksheet and it looks decent, I think, which is nice. And so I think the same thing kind of applies for content. You're not going to be Pat Flynn at first. He's in the online business space, he's got really good content. but you're not going to be Pat Flynn at first. You're not going to be, you know, like a famous news anchor at first. You just kind of have to go through the suck and, you know, come out the other side. What's kind of your like end goal for all your content? Like, what are you kind of working towards? Do you have any courses that you're making? Because I would love to see a course by you personally.
Yeah. So, and I actually appreciate that. That is kind of like next steps for me, is to create more courses, because I hear a lot of people, they say exactly what you're saying. They want to see more courses from me, more classes from me. And so that is the next step for me, is to start putting out different courses for more. I'm going to start off with just free courses, you know, like everyone can just kind of just attend, and that's me just looking for that feedback. Because like you said, you got to go through the suck at first, right? It's kind of like you have to be able to, you know, iron out whatever wrinkles are within, you know, whatever you're doing. And so I definitely want to do courses. I want to provide classes. And I want to do more like just webinars, just more speaking engagements, just things like that. Just you know, kind of get away from like the digital content creation, and kind of just being out more just like in person. So doing more speaking engagements, being at more conferences, and just providing more courses online.
Yeah, what do you think kind of your first free course might be? No pressure.
No,
You
so
don't have to stick to
actually I did one with Steady Notes ABA where I discussed compound schedules, and I got a lot of positive feedback about that. So I want to continue with that. So kind of like where you were discussing like breaking down the task list, I want to kind of do something like that, where kind of spend a certain amount of time on a specific task list item, but it's, you know, kind of like presented to you in like a class format. And so we just spend maybe like 30-45 minutes just discussing responding conditioning. So things along those lines.
I didn't realize that you did a collab with them. That's super duper awesome.
Yeah. I haven't checked their website to see if it's still on there, but it was when they did study stock. They did study stock in 2020, and then they did it again last year, 2021. And so I actually watched it in 2020, and then I was able to be a part of it in 2021.
That's so awesome. That's super cool. I remember seeing all the study stock stuff.
Yeah. And it was a really cool event. So yeah, hopefully I'm a part of it again this year. But yeah, definitely go on their website to kind of see if it's still on there.
Yeah, that's super awesome. Do you kind of prefer the shorter form content of like reels, or do you prefer doing like longer form content like YouTube and courses and things like that?
I don't really know. I think I'm still like, I'm still at a point where I'm still trying to figure out which one I prefer more.
You're really good at both.
Thank you. I think with the reels, they require like, you know, just a lot of creativity. And then the longer form, the longer content, that requires just a lot more planning. And so just kind of maybe just finding like a middle ground between the two. I enjoy both of them, so I can't really say I have a preference for either one, because they both have their advantages and disadvantages. They take a lot of time, and that's why I definitely dedicate a lot of time to both of them, just trying to make sure like with the reels I'm being as creative as possible, and then with the longer content I'm just being as detailed as I can be, you know, being as clear and trying to be as concise as possible.
And I think that would be one of my content creation tips for anybody who's looking to get into that, is be educational. And I'm trying to think, there was like 3 categories or something like that I've heard of, but you know, entertain, educate, and I think there was another one and it's escaping me, but education is a big one, especially in our field, because you know, you're constantly learning new things, no matter, you know, what certification you hold or whether you don't hold a certification, that's totally fine. There's just so much to learn. And so I think that educating, and that's kind of how I got into content creation, I was just making infographics for myself. I had seen some on Pinterest and I was like, oh, I could make those using Canva. And so I started doing that. And then people were like, can I buy these as flashcards? And I was like, no, but now you can. And then people were like, do you have a workbook? I was like, no, but now I do.
Now I do. Yeah. Now I can make one for you. So yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah. So that would be my tip, is educate. And just try to be as helpful as possible to people, and the rest will just kind of come naturally, and people will give you ideas for what to do.
Yes, they will. And with you discussing like educate, with the field kind of just continuing to grow, it is growing so rapidly. So many people are coming into the field. I feel like there's a lot for us still to learn, and there's a lot of industries and spaces that we can bring ABA into. And so kind of just like taking that time to connect those dots, bring our science into that industry, to show that industry why, ABA is useful in their industry. And then taking that time to teach everyone else like how ABA benefits this industry and how we can apply it to this industry. It's kind of like just taking that time, figuring out how we can implement ABA into whatever those other industries are. For instance, like OBM or like sports, things like that. People are already doing it, and I think it's like the coolest thing to like listen to them talk about like something as simple as positive reinforcement or like shaping in like the sports industry. It's like it's the coolest thing to me. So like, I'm always interested to hear like how people are applying ABA in a new industry, and then taking that time to educate us who are in the ABA field on how they're doing it. So
yeah, I'm trying to think of other fields. Like psychology is one, which is kind of funny because you would think, I mean, you and I both have you have a undergrad degree in psychology, right?
Mm-hmm.
I do too. And so it's kind of interesting that like psychology is kind of the foundation of ABA, but also not quite. Like they're so overlapping, and yet there's so many distinctions in them. And
I agree.
Yeah. So, combining different like behavioral principles and interventions, even, I guess, with like a psychological underlying foundation can be really, really powerful. Because I feel like one area of ABA that's lacking, at least currently, is mental health. Like I feel like a lot of us don't quite know what we're doing with the mental health aspect of things, but that's so important to ruling out medical. I mean, so
I definitely agree. And then and like you're saying, like, as time goes on, just acknowledging like how we can apply ABA principles to mental health, how we can apply it to this sector, like how we can go about applying it, and then turning around and providing those CEUs, providing those learning opportunities, so everyone can know like how everyone knows how we can apply these things to these different industries. So I'm super excited about what the next 10 years for ABA looks like. But I know like right now it's kind of like, there's a lot of question marks on a lot of different things. But I'm optimistic about us kind of like getting through it and, kind of really just blossoming into like this really amazing field that's very helpful for everyone.
I totally agree. I refuse to just give up on it. I just, there's something about ABA with, I like you said, there's so many question marks right now, and justifiably so. But I just have this like undying optimism that we will get through it, and that listening to autistic voices and other criticisms of ABA, that we can take that and apply it and take the feedback. I mean, that's what we're supposed to do in sessions, is like take feedback from a supervisor and apply that feedback and improve, and just constantly getting better. And I just have this like hope that the science is there, even if the application is questionable. And I know there have been aspects of getting to that science and gaining that knowledge that were horrendously harmful. But the same holds true for the medical field. I mean, a lot of what we've learned in the medical field did not come from like nice, flowery experiments. And so, I just have this feeling that we can make it through, and that we can get to a place of really humane, ethical, and wide-reaching, impact. So,
I agree.
Yeah. So tell us all of the places that we can find you on the internet right now.
So right now, my central hub would be my Instagram, Ricky the RBT. It's just RICKYTHE That's my central hub. I do have the YouTube channel that's growing, but I don't have a website or anything like that just yet. So just on Instagram, you can find me at Ricky the RBT, and that's where you'll be able to access anything that I'm currently doing, it'll all be on my Instagram.
That's awesome. And I will be sure to link everything in the show notes so that people can easily find it. Go to alldayaba.org. And then there will be like a thing that says the All Day ABA podcast. That's the actual episodes you can listen to. But then it says podcast show notes on the other side. And you can click it, click season 1. And this is season 1, episode 5. And that is where you can find us. And thank you again so much for being on. It has been such a pleasure to have you. And I hope everybody can come away from this with some content creation ideas and use that to forward yourself in whatever way that looks like for you.
All right. Yeah. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And looking forward to future opportunities to be back on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you'll have a website next time we talk, I'm sure.
Speak it into existence. I love it.
Yep. Well, thank you. And have a good day.
All right. See you.